Hello, Excel academicians. Welcome back to our tutorials on spreadsheet. In our previous video, we have explored the different lookup functions that we can have in Excel. We have looked at the VLOOKUP, the index and match, the Xlookup, and the HLOOKUP. And we have seen the various ways where this function can be effective in handling a particular task. In this tutorial, we are solving a question based on the functions that we have used. We are going to explore and use the different lookup functions and see how best it suits a particular question. Let's get into it. So, this is autumn 2025 question. Let me quickly go into it. And the first time that I saw this question, the spreadsheet aspect of the question, this looks okay, the mathematical functions. But the lookup, what students were supposed to do under the lookup, was quite challenging. And that alone was 9 marks. The good thing about this question, however, was that it was independent. After you are done with this formula, there is nothing else that depended on this formula. So if you lose the entire mark, at least the others could make up for it. This is what the examiner's report says. Yes, question number 7. Many candidates found this question challenging, and it was used to differentiate between the higher level and other candidates. The question was explicit in that it required candidates to look up the costs, which restricted the expected candidate responses to the use of different lookup functions. So they were expecting you, whoever wrote this paper, to use a lookup function and not a nested if or an ifs function. So I could see the question was quite challenging. And the same opinion has been expressed by the examiners. Let's look at the question. So we'll head straight to solving it from this part. So we have the two files for the good. So we have n2 rafter.csv and then this other file which is used as a lookup. Let me zoom in a little bit. Good. So the question says, open and examine the file N25 rafter, place your name, center number, and candidate number right aligned in the header, save the spreadsheet as rafter. So you can go to the layout view right in the header. Good. After that, I can exit the layout view and then back to the question, save this as rafter. We'll do that quickly. So that is rafter underscore. Place in cells A20 to E36 the content of N25 stock. Do not change this data. So N25 stock is there, the content is here. Let's copy that, get it to 20. Okay, so it means now we will not use this file. So let's close it and open this one up. Great. So far, place a formula in B6 to convert the length of the overhang from millimeters to meters. To convert millimeters to meters, you divide the number of millimeters by 1000. Place a formula in cell B9 to calculate the length of the rafter in meters, where the length of the rafter is the length of the overhang in meters plus the width of the roof divided by 2 all squared plus the height of the roof squared, all of it square root. And they have stressed that you can use a square root function in this. This is 8 marks for that purpose. So quickly, let's head into it. This is over 1000, and then the length of the router, which is equal to the length of the overhang plus, and we are going to look at a couple of ways of doing it. They say we can use the square root function. So if we don't use the square root, what else can we use? And it is the width of the roof divided by 2 all raised to the power 2. And this symbol that you have in your calculator can be used for the raised to the power plus the height, also all squared. Height is B8. So B8 also squared. Now we can have our value. Let's open it up a bit. So we have this. We can use another one equal to, instead of using the square root, let's open up a bracket and we have the power. Okay. Can use a power function of this divided by 2, and the next parameter, which is the power, is the raised to the power. So it's raised to the power what? It's raised to the power 2. And then plus, again, the power function of this value, also raised to the power 2. Now, for the square root, if I should close this, I can also do raised to the power using the raised to the power symbol 1/2, right? Square root is raised to the power half, isn't it, mathematically? So we also have the same value as this. So that is it. Now let's go back to the question. The question says that we have done this one nicely. A rafter is cut from a standard size with the waist kept to a minimum. Place in cell B10 a formula to look up the minimum standard length needed to make the rafter. Place in cell B11 a validation rule to restrict data entry to only the sizes listed in row 21. Data must be selected from a drop-down list. Place evidence showing the validation rule with the criteria used. So a formula to look up the minimum standard length. Let's try a couple of functions. So the minimum standard length, this is currently the length of wood that we need, okay, for our rafter. However, these values are not, we don't have them directly in our lookup values, okay. This is 3.36 and the closest is 3.3. The next is 3.36. 3.6, sorry. So what wood length do we need that will be more than 3.36 and not less? Okay, let's try a couple of lookup functions. Let me try the VLOOKUP because our list of lookup values is vertical in nature. So it is equal to VLOOKUP. This is the value the same as this, so it doesn't matter. My lookup table is here. My column index is just one column. And I can't use exact match. So let me try and approximate, which is true. I get 3.3. And you agree with me that if I need a wood length of exactly 3.36 and I am using a wood of 3.3, it will not be enough for the rafter that I need. Okay, so let me try another one. Let me try the lookup function. Lookup function, by the way, does not have any form of approximation. It uses only exact values. So let's try it. Comma, my lookup vector is here, and it is the same as my result vector. That also gives me 3.3. But we have seen in our previous video that Xlookup has a parameter that can help us to pick the next larger item. If you remember, if you have not watched our video on Xlookup, please do so and you will understand the syntax. So my lookup array is here where I'll get my lookup values. And the result I need is also in the same range. Okay. However, if not found, we can leave it blank. The match mode is not exact, but it says exact match or the next smaller value. We don't need the next smaller value. That will give us 3. The next exact match or the next larger item is what we need, and that is 1. The other parameter we don't need, so we can ignore that. And this gives me 3.6. So if the wood is 3.36, I need a wood that is longer than 3.36 so that I can cut it. And that is what the question stresses over here. Cut from a standard size and the waste kept to a minimum. We still need a waste, but we should find a way of keeping it to the barest minimum. Okay, so we have seen 3 different use of the lookup function, and we've seen the one that is most efficient based on the parameters. The next question says that restrict the data entry to the one listed in row 21. Place a formula, in your evidence a screenshot, place in cell B12 a formula to look up the cost of the standard length calculated in. And this is where they show that students had a lot of challenges. And it is true. This question looks more of a 9626 question than a 0417 question. So in here, we have seen data validation. It's one of our first videos for this channel. Okay, so the drop-down list shows over here. Now, to calculate the costs, you can see the table structure. One way of doing it is because we are picking from this value, and for the sake of this demonstration, let me move these ones so that we get the correct value to use. Good. This is our lookup value, and our lookup value can be taken from here. So you can use VLOOKUP for this purpose. So let's explore the different lookups again. So equals to VLOOKUP. We call my function arguments. Our lookup value is this, the 3.6. Our lookup table is this. Our column index is currently based on the position of our drop down. It will indicate the column that we need to use. Now, to do that, at in 0417, you don't have the match function, but I'll create another solution on this using the match function so that 9626 will see the different ways that we can use to solve this question. We can't use the match function because that is not in your syllabus at the moment. So let's use the Xlookup. Call my Xlookup function. My value is in B11. Yeah. My table of array is here. Okay. The reason why I'm using the Xlookup is because my lookup values for the drop down is going across, is horizontal in nature. And so that is why I'm using the Xlookup. My row index is in column 2. And then my range lookup is exact, so false. You will agree with me, however, there is no value in B11. Later when we'll do the drop down. So I'm not done. Let me finish my VLOOKUP function. It doesn't have a value, so clearly I'll get a wrong output, but I'll fix that soon. Okay, so NA, that is correct. But if I should pick a value over here, I should get an output. In our previous videos where the column that we selected does not have the same length as our VLOOKUP array, then we saw that there is something that we needed to add. And so here, it is just one column short of the total length. So this is the length of our VLOOKUP array. This is the length, the width of our Xlookup, and it is not the same. It is short by one column. So in that case, we add the +1 to it. And this time around, the value that is selected is appropriate. Let's try it with another lookup function. You can do Xlookup. Let's look at Xlookup, for example. So in Xlookup, our lookup value is this, just like we have seen in our VLOOKUP. Let me call my inspector. My lookup array is here. My return array, currently I don't know where my return array is. My return array is based on the size of the timber. So I can do another Xlookup, which can go and look for the value for me. So go in there once again, and this time around, my lookup value is this. My lookup array is here. My return array is this, if you remember. So it will look here, the column that it gets, whichever array that shows, that this value is, that is what is going to select. If not found, let's leave it blank. It is also exact match. We are not done with our external lookup, so we have to go back. If not found, this is also exact match. The other parameter we don't need. And you can see the outcome is the same as what we already have. Okay. You can also use, here we use VLOOKUP and Xlookup. You can also use VLOOKUP and Xlookup. So once again, This is a, sorry, lookup value, table array, the column index. Instead of using the Xlookup, we can use Xlookup, where this is our lookup value. Our array is here. Our return array is there. Let's leave the rest, but also exact match. Okay, we are done with our Xlookup. And once again, the problem with this one is that we are looking for the column index and not the value from there. So instead of using the Xlookup alone, we can use a match function. And I'm sure you saw this one in our previous video, where our array is here. So whatever it picks is, it brings out that value, and our VLOOKUP is exact match. Okay, I think there's a reference, and I'm sure it's from this. Yes. So let's change this one to, yeah, the same array. Good. Good. And then we have this. It is 14.81 because the the width of our match, sorry, our Xlookup is not the same as our VLOOKUP. So once again, we may have to add 1 to it. Plus 1. Good. So we have the same value. In 9626, you could also explore the use of the index and match functions. So our output should be here. That is our array. Our row index number is match, and the first one is here. The array is here. Exact match, close. The next match, our lookup value is this drop down. Our array is here. Our match type is exact. Close my index function. Let us inspect it, and we also have the same value. Okay, our array, where our output comes from. And what makes the index function easier is that, as we have explained in the previous video, our row and column numbers will be picked from the same width and length as our array. So there isn't the need to look for where to add a value. You can actually also apply the index with the Xlookup. It all depends on you and how good or conversant you are with a particular function. You are not restricted as to what function to use to tackle a particular problem. Let's quickly complete this task. Merge cells A1 to B1. Format this merge cell with a white 18-point sans serif on a black background. Merge cells A3 to B8 as well, to B3. So A1 to B1 should be merged. To B3 should also be merged. This is 18 point white text, black background. Format rows 1 to 4 in the spreadsheet to look like this. The 1 is open, 2 is hidden, 4 is also hidden a bit, and the rest of the data is in there. Then the 1 is open nicely. So the most part of this question, and the one that they used to separate the boys from the men or the girls from the women, is this. And we have seen that we can use more than one function to complete this solution. There are a couple of ways that you can use, and we have explored all of them. Just get your hands around the functions, and I advise that anytime you are solving a question that uses any lookup of a sort, try to use the different lookup functions that we have seen and how it can solve the same problem, so that in any case that you need to think about which particular lookup to use, you will be sufficient in using them to complete the solution. Thank you for joining this session, and I'm sure that as you practice more and more on your lookup functions, you'll be able to complete more difficult tasks as we have seen. See you in our next video.